Hi everyone, today for Bernina Club I'm going to be showing you the different types of 1/4 inch feet that are available for all the Berninas, and I'm going to be working on one of our larger machines today, one of the 7 series. The reason being you can do everything I'm going to show you on your machines. The couple of things that you can't, I will explain those to you, but I really want you to understand about the 1/4 inch seaming. So Bernina brought out a 1/4 inch foot a long time ago called a 37 1/4 inch foot. So when you put it on your sewing machine and you put your needle position in the center, it does a 1/4 inch seam from the edge of the foot to the middle of where the needle stitches. Okay, so for 90% of the machines this is the foot that you would use. Then we had some people who weren't quite as straight sewing as others, and so they brought out a 57 foot. Now as you can see from the 57 foot, this has got a guide down the side. So when you're sewing there is a guide, so you can run your fabric along the edge and it will sew nice and straight. So some ladies love this foot and they prefer to buy the 57 foot, and it is available for all the machines. Then when Bernina brought out these larger machines, they brought out a foot with a little memory thing on here, and this one is a 37D foot. Now what the D means is when I turn this around it has a very large cutout on the foot. So for these bigger machines they have what's called dual feed. So when you use this foot it means that you can put the dual feed on and it would feed the top and bottom layers evenly. Brilliant, except one small thing. When they bought these out, the foot was still very, very narrow, and if you have a look on my, I'll just put this up, if you have a look on the normal foot of these larger machines, it is very, very wide. Now that is to counteract the very large opening, which is 9mm. So we can do nice big wide stitching with this machine, but it wasn't so good when we use this foot. I'm just going to show you. So you put the foot on, you put the foot down, and you've got all of this open here. So it's not quite so good, because what happens is the fabric can go down in those teeth. So Bernina had to think of a new foot that they could develop that would cover those teeth. Now the other thing is, for all the sewing machines, if you're going to be straight stitching, whether you're straight stitching your normal garments together, straight stitching your patchwork together, or freehand stitching or embroidering, Bernina now have brought out straight stitch plates, well they've been out for a long time, for every single machine. Now what that means is there is a hole in the central of these plates instead of a very large 9mm opening. Now I'll show you what I mean by that, because you'll be going, what is she talking about? So I'm going to take this plate off and show you. This gap here is a 9mm opening, and the single hole one just has a single hole in here, and I will show you that shortly. I'll just see if I've got it in there. Of course I haven't where I want it. One moment please. I will be back. Okie dokie. So this is a single hole plate. So it has it has 2 holes, but a single hole where the needle goes down. So this is a very, very, very good plate for all your straight stitching. We're lucky enough on these larger machines that we can tell the machine we've got a straight stitch plate on. So I'm just going to use this one today to show you. So I'm going to put it onto my machine, and I can tell the machine what I'm going to do. Now on these larger machines also you have what's called a stylus that makes life very, very easy. And so I'm on straight sewing here, and I'm going to go into for the information little button, and I've got lots of things I can do on this machine, and I can change things, which is absolutely wonderful. But if I go to here, which is my foot that I'm using, you can see it brings up a star and it shows you what foot you're using. So today I'm going to use not the 37D foot, but the new foot Bernina have brought out called 97D. So all of these feet do 1/4 inch sewing. So anyone that's bought a new model 7 series will have this in their pack. So it's 97D. It comes with a little guide. It comes with a screwdriver. It comes with the 97D foot, and I'm going to show you the difference in the feet. You can see very clearly how it's been designed better. So it's covering the feed dogs, and it's also going to have a guide butted up to it, so you really can't sew crooked. So this is the 97D and this is the 37D. So you can still put your jewel feet on. It's brilliant. Okay, so I'm going to put the 97D foot on, and I'm going to tell the machine what I've done. So I'm going to scroll down. I'll just show you. I can just scroll down till I get to the bottom, and 97, whoop, not too far, 60, I'm up to 60, 97D, and I'm going to touch and tell the machine that I've used the 97D, and it's going to tell me on here very clearly to use the straight stitch plate. Okay, so it's a very clever machine. So if you're ever thinking of updating, the 7 series is the one. It's amazing. Right, the next thing I'm going to touch is the plate, so I can tell it I've changed my plate. So this machine here is showing it's got the 9mm plate on, but I'm going to tell it I've got the 0 plate on, so it will not let me accidentally push zigzag. So clever. So I've got a straight stitch needle in, ordinary needle in, and I've got the 0 plate on. That's my favourite, but I'm not using that, I'm using the 0. And now, if I show you, if I go to zigzag, it will not let me zigzag. It comes up at a big red mark to say, you cannot do that on your machine. Very, very, very clever. So I'm going back to straight stitch, and now it's happy for me to do that. Okay? Now I'm going to add on my little guide, and this is going to help me sew nice and straight. I don't need it so much for what I'm doing today, but I just want to show it to you. So this, put my foot down, and this guide just goes onto here. I have shown this before, but it always is good to show it again because it's absolutely brilliant. You can buy these guides for any of your machines. Some of you with older machines will have one, so it's absolutely brilliant. Okay, so I'll just show you that again. Lift that up. You unscrew it by just putting the screwdriver through there, and on the machine there's actually 2 holes for various things, and we're using the first hole on your sew plate there, okay, on your arm. So I'm just going to put that on again, put my foot down, and then butt this up against my foot. There's a little groove that you can see, and I'm going to tighten that screw. Okay, so you would use this when you're sewing strips of fabric together, which I'm not actually doing today. I'm sewing it onto a piece of fabric, but I'll leave it on to show you. Okay, so now what I'm going to teach you today actually is kind of a little bit of a reverse applique method, and it's using freezer paper. So if you don't have freezer paper at home, go and buy some. In America, of course, you can buy it in the grocery store. In New Zealand you can't, so you have to come to quilt shops to buy it. Isn't that amazing? And it's absolutely brilliant for wrapping up your food to put in the freezer. But quilters have worked out it's absolutely brilliant for using on quilting. So the way it is used on quilting, I hope you can see that. There is a shiny side to freezer paper. This means that I can iron this onto a fabric, and there is a dull side. Okay? So there's the dull side. You can probably see the difference if I do that. Shiny side and dull side. Okay? Now what I'm going to do is the iron-on side is going to go onto the back of my garment or what I'm working on. So I'm going to fold it with my shiny sides together, and I'm going to draw a shape on here which is going to be my applique. So I'm just going to draw a heart because it's nice and easy. So I'm just going to use my pen and I'm just going to draw a heart shape. So there's how I do my heart. There's my halfway, and it just makes it easy, and I'll just transfer it and draw through to the other side. You can see clearly through this, it's wonderful. Or maybe not quite. Let me just see, I think I went too far. Oh yes, I went way too far. It's nearly time for glasses. There's my beautiful, nearly straight heart. It's getting there. I'll just straighten it up. You're not going to see any of this, ladies and gentlemen, so don't worry. So there is my heart, and I'll be following this line here. So this is going onto the back of my fabric. Okay? So whatever I'm appliquing, if you come over to my iron, I'm going to use black fabric today, so it's going to show up really well. And I'm going to iron this onto the wrong side of my black fabric. So I'll just iron my fabric first because it's a little bit creased. And this could be a garment, this could be a quilt block, whatever you like. And I'm going to iron my freezer paper onto the back here. Okay. So just, it pulls off so easy. It's a product you can use time and time again. So it's wonderful. I've used it up to 6 times before and it's worked perfectly. Now all I'm going to do first is I'm going to straight stitch around my shape so I've got something to work with. So I don't actually need my guide on, do I, for doing this? So the guide was just to show you. Oh, actually, let me just show you first. Let's just backtrack and I'll just show you what you'd use it for. So if I have a guide on and I want to sew my bits of fabric together, I would put my piece of fabric right side up and my next piece of fabric right side down, like that. And both pieces would butt up against this guide here, and I'll thread my machine up. So this machine, it's exactly the same. Don't be frightened by the size of it. It threads exactly the same as every Bernina for the last 75 years. They all go behind here, down here, around here, and behind a couple of guides. The difference with this amazing machine is it's got an automatic needle threader, and a lot of the machines have now, but this one's particularly clever. So you hook it under a bar, you push it down, you slide the thread in, and you let your right hand go and your left hand go, and you pull the thread. And there you have got an amazing needle that's threaded without you doing any work. My knee control is used just to lift my foot up and down. So a lot of you ladies have got these. Please use them because they make life very easy. So I'll just put my thread underneath. With these new machines, you do not need to bring your bobbin thread up. It just sews without any jamming up. So if I wanted to sew these two pieces together, I would just leave it on ordinary straight sewing, but I'm going to pull these pieces apart. So I'm going to just put it on a longer length. So don't worry about it, it's just for a demonstration. So I'm just going to start sewing, and you'll notice these machines make a little noise. And this machine I've got set to do a couple of stitches at the beginning. I might take that off for what we're doing today. And you run these feet, this fabric just along this edge of this bar here. Just get it started. And away you go. So you don't really have to think too much. The machine's going to guide it. And if you want to, you can put what's called your needle stop down on, which a lot of you ladies have. And on this machine, you just simply touch the screen, needle up, needle down, and every time I stop sewing now, my needle will be in the work. Brilliant. Needle in the work. If I want my needle to stay up, I simply touch the screen again, like that. And now every time I stop, my needle will be up. Isn't that brilliant? So good. So a lot of you ladies will have a button on your machine, whereas this one's touch screen. Okay? So I'm only doing a long length because I'm going to pull it out. And I also have scissors on this machine. So a little bit spoiled. Okay, so I have now, which you can't see, but I have got a perfect 1/4 inch seam, which I'm going to pull out because I don't want it. So it's just to show you what you do with the guide. Okay, so I will undo that one and I'll just show you how we're going to sew our applique. So I can leave the foot on for my straight sewing as well at the moment because that's all I'm going to do. By the way, this has a wonderful magnetic place to hold your little stylus so you don't have to lose it. Just magnetise, you can put it sideways but it sits better like that. So with my heart, use my knee control, put my foot down, my needle stop downs on. All I'm going to do is sew around my heart. Now one thing I will do, because I have got this set for normal sewing, is I'm going to take off my lock off button. So I'm going to go into my settings, I'm going to go straight sew zigzag, I'm going to go here where the little hand is, and I'm going to go onto here and make sure that I've got my scissor on, my foot's on, and this one here I'm going to make sure that's left off. And there's another one I need to do. Go into here, go into here, into here. So foot up, cutter, that's off. I'm just checking them all so we don't have it wrong. So here, isn't it clever? It's a very clever machine. I think we're all good. Okay, so I'm going to start sewing and I'm going to stitch around my heart. Oh, take it off my long stitch, roll it back down because we want a nice narrow stitch, even more. If anything's yellow on these machines, it means you've changed something. So see how that's yellow? It means I've changed a standard setting, so that's on straight sew plate. If that's yellow, I've changed my stitch length, and I can push clear and it will take it back to the machine setting, which I will. I'll leave that on clear on 2.5. The new modern machines are 2.5 length, not 2, how Bernina used to have them set. Wonderful, really, really good. I like 2.5 better. Us Kiwis tend to unpick, obviously more than the Swiss. So I'm just following my line, and I'm following the guide that is the correct one, not my guide that wasn't the correct one. And then going around the other side of my heart. So this is just a stay stitch really, that's all it is, it's just a stay stitch. Now when I get to the centre, whenever I'm doing anything, I put my needle down, then I lift and I just come back and do a couple of stitches and then lock it off. Okay, so it just cuts it off, and you're going to cut your thread there, and with these machines when they cut, that's all you end up with, so it's absolutely brilliant. You don't need to worry about it, but I'll take those off just to show you. So it's very, very good. It's only a simple thing, so that's why I've used black, so you can actually see what I've done there. Now my next step is I want to cut out the centre of this heart, but I'm going to leave about 1 centimetre all the way around here, which is going to be clipped and turned under. So this would be my quilt block or my garment, and my applique is going to come in from the back. Okay, so I'm just going to fold my heart, put my seams together and do a cut first. Okay, so I'll just show you that there. See, I've put a cut right through my heart, and it's about 1 centimetre or more, doesn't really matter, away. So now I'm going to turn it over and cut it because it makes it easier to cut from this side so I can see. So I'm going to cut down about 1 centimetre from my point and cut out the whole inside of my heart. I think you're going to enjoy this method, and I think it's something you'll use a lot. I think it's really, really, really good, and you're going to love working with freezer paper. I love it. So good. Now the centre of my heart I can use for something else in my sewing, so don't throw out the centre of your design, and you can make any design you like. So there I have another heart that I can use, so keep hold of that. Now what I'm going to do, and I'll turn it this way so you can see, here's my heart, but this fabric needs to be turned right back to this white mark. So I need to clip right back to my stitching all the way around. If I come on this side, maybe it'll be easier for you to see. So you're cutting all the way back. Look at my beautiful lines. Don't worry about those. They're all going to... Oh, I did this the other day. Before you go clipping, what you really have to do is take away this inside paper, because you don't need it in there anymore. It was just there to hold your work together and for stitching. So this is how easy this freezer paper is to come off. You just simply start tearing, and because you have done a stitching line, it tears back beautiful to your stitching line. See that? So you want to do that before you start clipping. Every time a coconut I do the same thing. I always forget. My little rubbish bin. So you want to take off all these little bits of paper. Now that's going to be trickier, isn't it? Because now they're individual pieces. That was a bit silly. We'll go back up here where it's a bit easier. It's funny, I've done that just about every single class I've taught of this. I have done the same thing. You would think you would learn. See how the outside of my heart's still staying there because it's on the other side of my stitching? Luckily I didn't carry on cutting too far, wasn't it? So I'll take these little pieces off as well. Oh, that was lucky. Nearly got it. Yeah, you can see how wonderful it is because I have got my stitching line. It's so easy to cut them off. Oops, I touched a button. Be careful what you touch on your screen because it's touch screen. Isn't that brilliant? So there we are. Better push straight sewing again. So now you can see where I'm clipping. I'm clipping right back to my white stitching line. In fact, now it'll be easier to do it on this side so I can see. Can you see that nice and clearly there? It's really, really good. The cameraman's nodding, so that means you can. Brilliant. So clip, clip, all the way around. And as you finally probably can see, then I'm going to press that right back behind that white stitching line. And that will make like a blind applique. Oops, don't clip your threads. Normally I don't do this hanging it up in the air. I am sitting at my table, so I have to just be a little bit careful. Okay, clip it all the way around. I think you'll really use this method, you'll love it. Now come to your iron, and when you're pressing this, because you're handling it, see how easy it is to take that freezer paper off? Just give that another little press. That's the beauty of freezer paper. It lifts up very, very easy. It's only a temporary stabilizer, okay? So now, if you have a look here, all I'm doing is I'm going to be pulling these back, and if you haven't cut it far enough, it won't pull back far enough. So you need to make sure you've cut it right up to the white stitching, because you want to pull it back and really just see that white stitching. So you pull your pieces back. If I come round here, you might be able to see that a bit clearer. If I go back this way, there we are. So you want to pull it back so you can just see those white stitches there. Hopefully you can see that nice and clearly, because you don't want to see those white stitches. You want to pull it back so your fabric is getting pulled right back. Okay, the white stitches are on this side, which is the wrong side. So pull this right back, and if you haven't clipped it far enough, then go and clip it again. Okay? And by doing this, you're going to be really impressed with the end results. I really like it, and you can do any shape at all. Okay, come down to your point. Now what I do when I get to this point part is I do actually trim off that excess fabric just there, and when I pull it this way, I trim off this excess fabric as well, because we don't really want that in there on an angle. Brilliant. Okay, Just be careful you don't iron it back the other way. So again, just pulling this all the way around. Take time to do it neatly because it will give you a really, really nice result. And you are going to be doing a fancy stitch around it, so don't panic too much because you will be covering it. But it's still good to get that back as far as you can go. And actually, it's a really good idea to use a different colour. Okay? So when we've finished doing this, we'll have a little break, and then I will be showing you how to do your reverse applique. And we're going to be piecing bits of fabric together to make a really nice bright inside for our heart. We're going to make it really, really bright and fun. Also, a really, really good reason for doing this is children get marks on their clothing. It could be a really, really, really good way of adding a fun applique to children's clothing. Okay, so what you've ended up with, now you can have a look, is a heart with a very large hole in the centre, and I will repress it, make sure it's all perfect, and then come back and show you how to fill it all in. So then I go from this side and give it a good press, and I'll just pull this top bit down. I should have tweezers for this piece, but I'll get a pin and just make sure I pull this top bit right back down and press it without burning my fingers. Okay, there we are. So this is what it's going to look like. I'll just hold that up so you can see. That's what it's going to look like on the wrong side. Okay, so I'll see you all again in a few minutes and we'll show you how to do your applique.